you.
I might just leave that fuck you in as just like a random intro, just like no context to it.
It's like Smosh's shut up.
Yeah.
Just me yelling fuck you.
Well, since we still don't have Chester sing the intro to our fucking podcast, that might be a temporary intro. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Higgledy Piggledy podcast. Today we are joined by myself, Peter. We've got Tommy, and we've got Scruff. Hi Scruff, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
What's up? No worries, my guy.
Cool. What do we want to talk about? I mean, I feel like there's a lot, but what do we want to do first?
I know damn well what you want to talk about.
There is something I want to talk about, but I feel like just opening it means that like I'm going to be very high energy at the beginning and then fizzle out by the end. So I feel like I might save that one till later.
Should we throw out there with Hawkeye then?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
All right.
What are you guys thinking of episode 3?
It's so weird doing this like nearly a week after it came out and being like, God, let me remember. No, I really liked it. I think, you know, my kind of criticisms of the first 2 episodes of them being kind of like, I think the thing is, to be fair, I think the first 2 episodes for me, the second episode got negatively affected by the first one because I really wasn't that fussed about the first one. And then the second one was much better, but because I watched them together, it came as a package deal. But the third one is significantly better. There's better action. The kind of charisma between the 2 leads of Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld is much more present in this episode, and it's just fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think the third episode, however, just kind of put things into perspective for me, and I was like, wow, those first 2 episodes really were quite boring. Like I thought it at the time, but I was like, well, I mean, you know, they had their moments and everything, but no, really, after watching the third one, I was like, those first 2 could have been so much better.
See, I disagree. I loved the first 2, but Hawkeye's one of my favorites, so I'm biased. You got to remember, there's a difference between me and you two, and that's
you like boring characters.
I'm a dad, so I find Hawkeye kind of relatable, and I don't have superpowers, and my hearing is terrible.
That is very true. To the point that when Alex said, I am loading up Audacity, then there was a good like 30 seconds later, and then Tommy went, oh yeah, Audacity. So and that was just before we recorded this. So yeah, I mean, sure, like his children do like make him a bit more endearing, and I think one thing that worked really well in this episode is there is a kind of, we'll get into spoilers later, but there is a phone conversation between him and his youngest son, which was a really well executed scene that made me like go, okay, yeah, like I'm now much more invested in his plight to get back home for his kids' Christmas. But I feel like the thing, and Alex kind of said this last week, the thing with Hawkeye in the MCU is that he didn't really have anything going for him in Avengers 1 or 4, so they just gave him a family, and that was supposed to be his character progression and the reason to be invested in him, and then they kind of just didn't do a lot with it. Like, the Ronin thing would have been cool if it had been done better, because that is a good premise of he loses all of his family and goes apeshit, but we kind of just see that once in Endgame for one scene, and then he's just back to Hawkeye but with a dumb haircut and a sword.
Yeah, but that's why I'm glad they're doing it now, because I was pretty disappointed that there wasn't much Ronin in Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in an ideal world, and obviously this couldn't have happened back then because they weren't kind of prepped for it, Disney Plus didn't exist and everything, what would have been really cool is if we had seen Infinity War, and then there was a year of Disney Plus TV shows of different characters dealing with the aftermath of the snap. That would have been, and a Ronin TV show would have been really, really cool.
Would have meant Endgame even more fulfilling as well.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, like, they couldn't do that, and I don't feel like there's much point doing that now. If like going back and like, obviously they're doing that in like flashbacks and whatever, but there's no point doing an entire show that's like what how the characters deal with the snap. But like it's a really interesting 5-year gap where there would have been some interesting stuff going on that we don't see a lot of because Endgame just kind of skips over that 5 years. So
yeah. But I mean, they probably had all of that written before they had the go ahead to make a bunch of TV shows. So
yeah, and as I said, Disney Plus as a platform didn't exist when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out. I think it was maybe being talked about probably, but like it didn't physically exist. So
which is a shame because that would have been really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even to be honest with you, I know that they occasionally do like MCU tie-in comics. I'd be down to just see some tie-in comics for it. Although, you know, there's the typical thing of comics don't sell that well anymore, and would it be worth them investing the time in it? But when, you know, obviously they're already still doing their own stuff in the comics, so they can just keep it that. But
yeah,
trick arrows are cool. I'm really glad that we actually got to see some trick arrows because. What trick arrows has he had in the MCU so far? He's had explosive arrows, like rope arrows, and he has like an arrow that splinters into multiple little explosions.
Whenever I try and think of what arrows are used, I keep getting mixed up with the TV show Arrow. So I don't even know what one's. Like for a moment, I thought he'd used the USB one before, but
oh
no,
yes,
that's Arrow.
he has used a USB arrow before.
Has he?
Yeah, that was in Avengers 1 and also in What If he used a USB arrow, and he obviously Kate Bishop used a USB arrow in this episode
very effectively.
Side note, minor spoiler, I guess she uses a USB arrow and shoots someone with it, and it just bounces off of their chest and they have no reaction. If you shoot someone with a blunt arrow, which is basically what a USB arrow is, it's still gonna fucking hurt. It's like being punched, but significantly harder than most people can punch. Like, he probably would have been winded on his knees, but maybe she's not the best archer in the world if she can't knock a guy to the ground with a blunt arrow, but
Tracksuit Mafia, man, they're made of other stuff.
they're built different.
Why did she? I mean, there's so much more you could do. Like, why would you aim for his chest? Aim for his eye or something.
Fucking hell.
Like, oh yeah, but like if we're talking about if we're talking about doing damage, then there are I'm just saying there are much better places to aim than just in the chest. Yeah, in the nuts.
Yeah, rather than maim someone permanently, just but But yeah, there's some really cool trick arrows. I did make a point to Tommy, though. It's a little bit of a weird thing. So in the MCU, Hawkeye's kind of worn black and with like purpley red highlights, which is like that's as far as they were willing to go with comic book adaptation of the look, because they were like, oh no, his costume looks dumb, so we're not going to do that. He's going to basically wear Black Widow's costume, but with purpley red highlights. So why is like 2 or 3 of his different trick arrows were like purple, like they did purple stuff, and I'm like, well, purple's not really your color in the MCU, but Kate Bishop wears purple, so that's like, and she doesn't wear it because Hawkeye wears purple because he doesn't wear purple, so that's kind of weird. So I know it's obviously like, again, comic reference and whatever, but yeah, it's just a bit weird within the canon of the MCU.
Yeah, and no, I think it's cool that we get to see like a few nods to sort of like comic book Hawkeye. But it just kind of makes me feel like worse about how he is in the MCU, because I'm like, well, I mean, you've had so many opportunities to give him cool stuff like we're seeing now, but instead of actually giving it to him, we're just seeing them as Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, he's just so boring compared to what he could have been, you know?
I mean, hopefully, you know, if he's going to stick around as Hawkeye or Kate Bishop's going to take over, then hopefully moving forward, we might see some more of these trick arrows, because that's what it ultimately feels like. And is that, like, the people who've been writing Hawkeye's bits in the Avengers movies have just kind of been like, I don't know, he shoots an explosive arrow, I guess. Like, they're just like really unimaginative as to what they could do. And I don't know whether that's because they didn't want to go super comic booky with it, or whether they just didn't give a shit about his power set, or his, like, I guess, skill set rather than power set, because he's not super powered. But like, yeah, they just like really phoned it in with his different arrows. He shoots normal arrows and explosive arrows, and occasionally a mildly different arrow, but like in like a, I don't know, 10-minute action sequence in this one episode, he uses like well, I guess he doesn't use, but Kate Bishop uses like 10 different trick arrows that we've never seen before. They're all infinitely more imaginative than what we've seen him use previously.
Oh yeah.
So,
You know what my favorite one was, but I don't know if we're going into that one.
I think, yeah, just save it for the spoilers for now. I'm just trying to think if there's much else to talk about non-spoilery. We got Maya Lopez or Echo's backstory, which is pretty cool. We'll obviously talk about that more in the spoiler section, but I think that was an interesting way to start the episode, was like pausing the action to explain this character's backstory real quick, but it makes me understand what she's doing in the show. I guess kind of, you said last week you weren't quite sure what her involvement was, Alex, and I feel like they kind of answered it pretty well in like a 5-minute sequence. So
overall, I think it was just like, I think it was so much better than the first 2 episodes. I was actually interested. I actually enjoyed watching it this week.
And it wasn't just the action sequence either, because a lot of the episode is one particular action, or 2 action sequences, I guess, one after the other. That's like the majority of the episode, but there's other good stuff going on in that episode. There's a good kind of cliffhanger leading into the next episode. There's some good questions raised. I don't expect the rest of the show to be this action orientated. There's going to be action sequences, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be like every single episode is going to have like a big thing like that. And also, like, that chase sequence is basically lifted directly from the comic that the show is based on. So, like, it's a big moment from the comic. Although, funnily enough, if I'm remembering correctly, in the comic they do, like, what was the car that she wanted to steal? Was it like a red Camaro or something?
A Challenger or something.
And that's the one they use in the book, and then they in the comic book, and they end up wrecking it. So that was like a cool little wink nod, was like her wanting to steal, and then him going like, I'm not wrecking that car. So and then it gets wrecked anyways. But yeah, no, it was a good fun episode, and it's cool to see that dynamic. So
yeah, I think the dialogue just improved a lot in this as well. Like, it was actually like somewhat gripping. Like, I feel like in the first couple of episodes it was like, people were saying words and I just didn't care what they were saying, you know? Like, I was just like, oh, I really hope something picks up soon, because...
But man, bro, I found it.
Yeah, but that was right at the end of the second episode.
That was right at the end. That was literally the only bit of dialogue that I even reacted to.
One thing I will say, there's some, and it's a TV show, so whatever, and there's like, it looks very good for a TV show, but there's some iffy green screen going on in this episode. Some of it's during the action sequence, which I don't really care about, like when Kate's like outside of the car and like you can kind of tell that she's shot on a green screen with a fan blowing at her hair. That's fine, like it doesn't look great, but it's an action sequence, and again, it's a TV show. There is one which I'm like 95% sure is green screened, and I have no idea why, other than just like budget reasons. But like the Netflix Marvel shows did this, which is when they're on the subway, like on the actual train, they 100% look like they're not in that environment, and like the shadows just look weird, and like they just look kind of almost like pasted in front of the subway. And it's just like, I was looking at Jeremy Renner's head and just going like, you just don't quite look like you fit in this shot. Like, it's just weird. It's just not quite right. And like I said, like, why not just film on the subway like the Netflix shows did? But I guess it's monetary. Maybe they're not even filming in New York at all, and so that's why. But yeah,
I genuinely didn't notice.
Yeah, well, that's the curse of me with noticing things like that. Like, shots like that stick out like a sore thumb to me. And I've talked about the Mad Max Fury Road one before, which is like, there's just one really bad CGI shot very near the beginning of the film, and I was like, oof, that's...
The man's picky with his CGI.
But as long as the stuff is entertaining, it doesn't like ruin the experience for me. But I was just like, oof, that was like, that's your TV budget showing there. But
right, spoilers. I wanna get something out of the. Oh, here's your warning. 5-second warning. We're going to talk about spoilers.
Chapters at the bottom. You can skip ahead if you haven't seen the episode. Although, why are you watching this if you haven't seen the episode, man? It's been out for like 5 days. Anyways.
Or listening.
Yeah, but
Okay,
this is only on YouTube, so why are you like? I guess if you've got YouTube Premium, I know, but if you've got YouTube Premium, you can turn off your screen and listen to it. But otherwise, it's still visual.
Yeah, I like to fall asleep with YouTube on.
Okay.
Yeah, stick an earbud in. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to get something out of the way before I forget. I really need to address this because they don't seem to be in any of their movies or series. So, Kate Bishop straight up killed a bunch of guys, right?
Yep. Then did
Like
untold amounts of damage.
Like big fuck off, like explosion, like one of the big like Range Rover type cars. She just fully exploded it with people in it.
I'm pretty sure you see it like come to a stop though, and the people get out or something, don't you?
I don't think so. I think they're driving and it explodes and then does a cool fucking flip.
Okay, so she maybe killed 2 people.
Yeah, but I've
death still.
Mm.
And I feel like they've, I've done this, or they've done this in a couple of films, and I've thought about it, and I was just like, I just think they never address it. Like, she's just straight up killed a couple of guys, and it's just not even brought up at all.
That Pimtech arrow probably took a few.
Well, no, because the people who were in that one definitely saw it, because one of them is Kazi, who is like the handsome mobster.
Okay, well, she definitely screwed up that bridge.
She definitely screwed up that bridge. Although technically she didn't. She just shot a normal arrow. Hawkeye fucked up the bridge.
That's true.
Yeah. It's one of the interesting things with like a lot of, I'm not talking about fantasies in medieval fantasy, but fantasy as a genre of like fantastical, is that most of the time if a character kills someone, it's kind of supposed to be just fun and not that big of a deal. So, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, I guess if you want to throw in Lord of the Rings, they kill loads of orcs and it's, Legolas and Gimli are making a game out of it. And so all of the Marvel films, most of the superheroes in Marvel kill people. I'm trying to think if there's anyone who like significantly doesn't other than Spider-Man in the MCU. Can't think of anyone. Wanda's kids, they haven't killed anyone yet.
No, Spider-Man has killed.
Who?
Endgame. He's killed aliens.
Kill
mode activate.
This is true.
I suppose.
That is true. But he hasn't killed any people, then, shall we say?
In 50 years, that's going to be offensive.
Well, once we've made contact with an alien species.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well,
aliens invade in 50 years. That's an exclusive on the Higgledy Piggledy podcast.
If I get hashtag cancelled in 50 years, you'll know why. But yeah, so it's kind of not made a big deal of. The only one I can really think of as being made a big deal of is when Scarlet Witch like redirects Crossbones explosive and kills a bunch of people in Civil War, and then she feels bad about that because the civilian casualties. But if she hadn't done that, more people would have died. So but that's the only time I can think of in the MCU where it's like we kill some people and we feel bad about it, sort of thing.
I mean, she could have just sent it like straight up.
I think she did, but it was just they were near a bunch of high-rise buildings and it blew up.
I don't think she did. I think she just sent it straight into the building. She was like, "Fuck those guys."
I don't think so.
I
genuinely
the whole thing of the city getting brought down as well. Ultron. People must have died in that.
Yes, they did. In Civil War, it's brought up, but no one's like, oh, like I guess Civil War is the one where it's like, oh, maybe we should, be reined in, but it's not like, oh, we feel bad for killing people. It's like, oh, should we only be like sent there by the government, and then if people die, then it's on the government rather than us, or should we go where we need to go, sort of thing. That's more the conversation going on, and only Scarlet Witch is like, oh, I killed people and I feel bad about it.
She's like, look, if there's a building full of people, I need to blow it up. Okay, look. we never would have succeeded in that mission had I not blown that building full of people up. Okay,
I want to
it
see.
needed to be done.
I want to see a fan edit where it's every single time like a building blows up in the MCU, it's just a shot of her throwing the explosive first, and then like Shield headquarters blow up in Winter Soldier and whatever. But yeah, so like it's just kind of made to be fun, and it's one of those interesting things because I think if a character like Spider-Man killed a human being, I'm sorry if I'm getting cancelled in 50 years, but if he killed a human being, that would be a big deal of it. And depending on how they do it, it would either be received well as like, oh well, he was pushed to the edge and had to do it, or it would be like when Superman kills Zod at the end of Man of Steel, and you just go,
What the fuck?
you kind of fucked the character there, didn't you?
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting. Henry Cavill recently talked about that, and he talked about like how he thought it was such a good premise, and I'm like, maybe it was on the script, but the way it was delivered in the film, which is nothing like he's fine in that scene, like he acts well in that scene, but it's just like you don't feel like it's weighed heavily on his conscience. Like you do at the initial moment that he's like outraged he had to do it, but then later on in the film, like towards the end when it's like wrapping it all up, it's like, oh, he's pretty happy, and it kind of it hasn't really weighed on him. And yeah, we can talk all day about how DCEU just fucked all of their characters, but yeah. So I don't know. I think they probably won't make a big deal of the fact that Kate Bishop killed some people, but
Well, no, I know they won't, but I think that's the problem for me is because, we've just been talking about Civil War, and I mean, the whole thing about that was, yes, people died. The whole point of Civil War was because they needed to be held accountable for their actions. At least that's what Tony's side was, trying to
yeah.
fight
But
for.
Hawkeye wasn't. He was on Cap's side.
Okay, yeah.
He's all for killing
Right.
civilians.
Well, yeah, exactly, like it just kind of comes back to that, I guess. And yeah, I feel like they made a whole movie about it, about the premise of, trying to keep casualties down and whatever, and
And then he just
you
shoots a
know,
fucking Pym arrow.
yeah, and like I and also the thing with Spider-Man, the fact that it's meant to be a joke that he has like a kill mode, an instant kill mode, because like Spider-Man doesn't do that. Well, you can't like in my mind, you can't joke about these things and have such a serious like topic of the movie like in Civil War being, like trying not to kill people and being held accountable for your actions and everything, and then just completely ignore that this fresh-faced 22-year-old character who has barely done like any real combat like before this series is set, blows up a fucking car, kills a bunch of people, causes a bunch of destruction, and they just don't mention it in the slightest.
Mm.
I think that's a
There's a-
problem for me. It really does take away. Like
This-
I saw it and I just couldn't stop thinking about it
I
afterwards.
guess, but bear in mind as well, she's 22, right? And let's just do a parallel real quick. Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa are 19 in the first Star Wars film. They kill a bunch of stormtroopers, and it's never brought up. And obviously, Luke blows up the fucking Death Star. It's never brought up that they've killed a bunch of people, and that maybe that should be like weighing on your conscience. So I think, yes, it's weird, but at the same time, it would. For me, Civil War isn't about that, and also Civil War as a film adaptation of the comics is meh. It's a good film, I think, but just not a great adaptation. But I just don't really like. As long as they don't start making it a big deal, but then never go back to the fact that some of these characters have executed people, then it's fine. Also, she did try and stab her stepfather in the previous episode, so she has already tried to kill someone before she blew up the car. So it's not her first time.
True. But there does seem to be a theme of Avengers arming young people.
Yeah,
Hawkeye, Tony.
yeah.
The MCU is really problematic thinking about it.
Child soldiers are fine.
soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they're incredibly skilled with a weird niche thing, or they have superpowers, child soldiers are fine. I mean, if you think about like comic books in general are like that though, because the X-Men has multiple underage members who go around doing the same thing. So Charles Xavier's got an army of underage child soldiers with superpowers. So,
True.
but So, Kingpin. Alex and I talked about this at length after the episode
Yeah.
came out.
Are you both thinking that it's I've forgotten the actor's name.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's the one. You both thinking it's him?
Well, I definitely am. I know Pete has his reservations. At least he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to
I am
go
currently Clint.
100%.
I'm currently Clint Barton with my stupid haircut in the rain, going, "Don't give me hope." I don't think it's Vincent D'Onofrio in that scene. I don't think that hand is Vincent D'Onofrio's.
Not in that scene, no.
But I reckon
Absolutely.
that laugh, I don't even think that laugh is Vincent D'Onofrio's. It could be, but I think it's not quite on. But what that Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin laugh, I don't know if it's his normal laugh, but his Kingpin laugh is pretty distinct, I would say. And that 100% sounded like someone doing either Vincent D'Onofrio or someone doing a Vincent D'Onofrio impression. So yes, I think that is Kingpin. Also, black suit. Also, fits with the comic backstory very neatly. And then obviously we'll get to it later, but there's been a recent, as in today, announcement from Kevin Feige, which makes this all seem much more plausible than just very good fan theory. It now seems very likely, if anything. But again, I don't want to say it's 100% because then I might get disappointed if it turns out. Like the first thing I did after Alex and I had this conversation is I started looking at, I can't remember the actual character's name, but Kate's stepfather, and going, let me look at your hands, because he's like the hand that so it's a scene in the like opening, which is kind of covering Maya Lopez's backstory, and her uncle like grabs her cheek and laughs, and you just see the hand and a man in a suit, but you don't see their face or anything. And the hand to me looks white, and Kate Bishop's stepfather is Latino, but I would say he's kind of white passing, so it could be his hand, but I don't think it is. But that's like the only other kind of like person it could be if they wanted to change the story up. So
Yeah, I mean that's what I said, wasn't it, to you? I think it's either Kingpin or him, and I don't think it is Jack because
Jack, that's it.
well, for one, I think it would just be too obvious if it was him. Like I feel like or maybe not obvious, but they're leading him down a very particular path, and I don't think it's that. I feel like
It'd feel a bit
if it
cheap
was
if it
him,
was.
yeah, I feel like if it was him, it just doesn't make much sense to me, it being him, really. And also, yeah, I think it makes more sense if it was someone like Kingpin, because like obviously Jack may have like ties to all these gangsters and everything, but from what we've seen so far, I think there's something else going on there.
But
I think
particularly because Maya works for the Tracksuit Mafia, who went to steal the Ronin. Well, they went to steal the watch and everything, didn't they? They went after the Ronin suit, but they attacked the auction that had the Ronin suit being sold, which Jack was after, and it stopped him from getting it. Like maybe it was a planned distraction so he could try and steal it, because he did steal the sword. But I don't know. Surely there's a cleaner way of stealing it than a big explosive through the wall and armed men coming in. But
well, yeah, and why did he have to be there? You know, like they could have just taken it themselves.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I don't think it is him, but it could be, and that's kind of why I'm not going, oh, it's 100% Kingpin. But also, you know, Kingpin rumored to be in the show for a long time, and again fits with Maya Lopez's backstory basically perfectly if he's her uncle, because in the comics he's good friends with her father and then orders her father executed and then basically raises her himself. So I don't think he's ever called her uncle in the comics, but that's basically an uncle figure or like a godfather figure or something along those lines. So yeah,
I think it is slightly weird though, because is it, did you say his name was Kazi or something?
yeah, Kazi.
Her best friend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what their relationship is at this point. Um, because he refers to him as uncle as well.
Mm.
Like I know he could just be referring to him that way because
That's what she calls
he's
him or whatever.
her uncle, but like I just thought it was a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it could be kind of, this wouldn't be kind of the way we've seen Kingpin act in the Netflix Marvel shows, but again, they could be non-canon anymore. It could be a new version of Kingpin, but still Vincent D'Onofrio. But it could be kind of like going for that almost like, as I say, kind of Godfather vibe where it's the family, and so like Kazi is not blood related to Kingpin, and presumably neither is Maya, but like he's like the family sort of thing. He's the head of the family, so they call him uncle or whatever rather than Godfather, because that might be a bit generic or whatever, but it could be something along those lines.
I'm thinking also like one thing that I'm kind of unsure about is Echo's father's relationship with Kingpin, because like from what we know of her father, like I mean what they kind of operated out of like a garage, you know, they ran like a mechanic shop or something. It doesn't exactly seem like the type of guy to have like a really strong bond with someone like Wilson Fisk, you know.
Yeah, but it could be, again, one could be a completely different version of Fisk to what we've seen so far. But also like Fisk, when Maya would have been a child, would be years and years before Daredevil season 1, if that's still canon. So it could be, you know, Fisk got from being a nobody to being the kingpin of crime eventually. So it could be on his journey there that he and Maya's dad were kind of similar level mobsters working for someone else.
Yeah.
And talking about Kazi though, and I don't know if I've shown you this, Tommy. I'm going to post it in the chat. I sent it to Alex after the episode. So towards the end of this episode of Hawkeye, Kate Bishop is looking up Kazi on her mum's like network, because they're like a security firm or whatever. And she's like typing in the name KA, and those are the results that come up. Now notice the one that's circled, Kemp M. Yeah. Kemp M. This was not found by me. I can't remember who it was, but someone on Twitter noticed this little Easter egg, and it probably is an Easter egg rather than anything big. It might just be someone who is a fan of the show. But Michael Kemp is a character who's been in the MCU before.
Oh.
That's a picture of his wiki page. He is the prisoner that Matt Murdock goes to talk to in the prison in Daredevil season 3 before Wilson Fisk sets an ambush for him.
Oh.
So that is someone who has a direct relationship to Wilson Fisk in a show that may or may not be canon anymore. So again, probably more of just an Easter egg of someone who was a fan of the show and went, oh, that's a name I could throw in there. And for all I know, those other names could also have little secret, like small tie-ins to the wider MCU. Like maybe some of them appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever. So it could be a very minor thing, or it could be another little Kingpin's coming. So,
or maybe it's actually Martin Kemp, and he got arrested because all the deals he was getting were criminal.
That one's got over my head, buddy.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
same.
Yeah, that was kind of niche.
I'm sure somebody will appreciate that somewhere.
If you don't know, Martin Kemp is like this money guy who makes his rounds on all these like early morning like TV shows. You know, he's the guy who's always like, you need to get more bang out your buck, and
I know who he is. Yeah.
Is he like the British Billy Mays here?
No, he's like a money advisor. He goes on morning shows like Good Morning Britain, and if that's the thing, I think it is now.
It will like teach you how to get
GMTV,
like
that's
a
it.
whole week's worth of food for like 2p or
Yeah.
some shit.
How do you get a whole week's food for 2p, Alex?
Cannibalism.
Oh, I don't know. Ask Martin Kemp. He knows. He's the one that will teach you.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah. So yeah, I think very likely that Kingpin's coming. So a theory that I've seen thrown around: do you think Hawkeye or Clint as Ronin was the person who killed Maya's dad, or do you think it was someone else wearing the Ronin suit? Because one of the fan theories thrown out there that I've seen is it could have been, is it Swordmaster? Is that Jack's real name?
The swordsman, I think.
Swordsman, because he uses a sword, and like they could have been, trying to frame Ronin. So what do you guys think about that potentially?
It would be interesting. I'd be kind of disappointed because, I mean, the whole idea that it's showing how off the rails Clint went in Endgame was kind of cool. I think it added a lot to his character. So for that to be taken away, I'd be pretty.
He still went off
it's
the rails.
possible.
We saw it in Endgame.
He still went off the rails, yeah. But that was like okay, he just full on murdered people with families, It never really made you think about that in Endgame.
Yeah, I could see that. I think if it was someone like Swordsman in Ronin's costume, again, my memory of the comics is hazy, but I'm pretty sure that not only did Kingpin order the death of Maya's father, but he had someone basically framed Daredevil for it, but I can't remember how he does it exactly. I don't think he has someone dress up as Daredevil. He might literally just tell Maya that it was Daredevil who killed her dad. But yeah, it's so again, if it is Kingpin and if they're doing that thing, then framing someone could work. So
I think that
maybe they'll
lead...
frame Daredevil and then Daredevil will show up. And then she'll be no. He was wearing a black suit with a hood. That guy's wearing a red suit with horns. That's not the same guy. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm out of the show. Bye.
Maybe it could have been Bullseye.
It could have been Bullseye if he's had his spine fixed, or again if it's a different Bullseye. But yeah.
It was. I just completely forgot what I was going to say. My brain just absolutely switched off then.
Have you had pizzas, my buddy?
I haven't. However, I would just like to say I completely fucked up that Martin Kemp thing. It's not who I thought he was at all. Martin Kemp's like this actor / musician. It's just wrong guy. Thought I was being funny. I was just being a twat. Really just quite ashamed of myself.
You've let the podcast down, buddy.
I have, genuinely, I thought it was such a good joke too. And then I was so sure of it. And then, no, just not quite.
My favorite thing is when one of us makes Tommy laugh to the point that it doesn't pick up on his microphone through Discord, but I just hear what sounds like a balloon being stabbed and just the air hissing out of it. Just in the background of the flat.
Yeah, I've got Muttley from Wacky Races. That's my laugh.
I'm sad that you've sorted out your hair, by the way. Earlier on, he looked like, what's his name from Lethal Weapon when he got home from work.
Oh, what? Riggs?
Yeah.
Is it Riggs? It's not Riggs, is it?
I'm not trusting you with names anymore, mate. That's for sure.
I wouldn't.
What's the name of the podcast, bud?
Who knows?
What else is worth talking about in Hawkeye, though? I guess we've kind of talked about the trick arrows. What else happened in the episode? Well, at the very end, obviously, Swordsman is in the flat with the Ronin sword about to attack Hawkeye. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I found it really funny how, Alex, you were talking about how the dialogue was much more compelling in this episode, but like 90% of the episode, Clint and Kate can't properly talk to each other because Clint's hearing aid's been broken. But that genuinely did make some really entertaining dialogue, and also it's one of the classics of like writing a cool action sequence is throw more problems at your characters that they have to sort out. So not only is it a chase sequence where they're being attacked and they've got trick arrows and whatever, but also they can't actually communicate very well, and that causes more of a problem for them, which is fun. So, but yeah, it's I just found it funny that you found the dialogue more compelling when they can't really talk to each other properly.
Well, I mean, that's what Echo said, wasn't it? Maybe maybe she says something along the lines of, maybe you'd find it better without the hearing aid or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I feel like that was the whole point of the episode, was to them to get better at communicating by not being able to communicate.
Yeah, basing it on instinct rather than talking.
Yeah, and yeah, I really liked that concept. I thought it worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was much better than the fucking flaccid, just god awful nothing lines that the first two episodes have. That I literally can't recall any dialogue from, except for that one line at the end of the second episode.
Yeah, I think that's probably it for what I can think of that happened in Hawkeye. I'm just excited to see where it goes next.
Out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Just
one last thing. I haven't watched it because I don't watch these sorts of things. I basically, for those who don't know, which is probably all of you, I usually watch one trailer for something, and then if it hooks me, I don't watch any of the other trailers, which is why I'm avoiding everything Spider-Man No Way Home like the plague. I've still been telling Twitter to stop showing me hashtag anything to do with Spider-Man, and it keeps on going, but do you want to see hashtag Peter Parker? I'm like, no, I've already told you 5 fucking times today I don't want to see hashtag Peter Parker. Got it. Hashtag Spider-Man? And I'm like, but so I haven't seen the teaser trailer for either the next episode or the rest of the season, but there is a shot that I saw trending on Twitter of a woman, or presumably a woman, in like a balaclava with some goggles on. And that is one of Yelena's. Yelena? Is that her name? That doesn't sound right.
I think so, yeah.
Yelena.
One of her costumes from the comics is her wearing like a mask with some like weird, almost Sam Fisher-esque goggles. So the rumor that she was going to be appearing in the show, and the kind of hint at the end of Black Widow, looks like it might be coming true. Although I'm curious to see whether the reason why they're having her wear a balaclava and the goggles from the comics is so that they don't have to bring Florence Pugh in to actually act on set, and they just had to get her to voice act or something. Have someone else perform her. I don't know. I hope not, because it would be cooler to have her actually on set.
That.
But
That would be a bit strange.
yeah, and it's probably just they don't want to 100% reveal it in the trailer, so they put her in a mask and goggles. But yeah. So we might be getting her next episode, which will be interesting.
I hope so. She was the best part of Black Widow for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She's also the best part of Little Women, which I recently watched. I don't remember whether we talked about the fact that Little Women was being advertised to me on Netflix on the podcast or off the podcast.
I think we did on the podcast.
Okay, well, I've watched Little Women now. It was alright. It's a decent film.
Nice.
Cool.
So that's it for Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Out of 10s?
Out of 10s?
Out of 10.
Like an 8.
8? Okay, cool. I'm happy for this.
For that episode, yeah, I'd probably give it about an 8 as well.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8.
Nice.
And
I'd definitely give it a 9 if they addressed the fact that she just straight up murdered people.
Which, yeah.
I would give it a 9 out of 10 if, while they're like fighting people off, Clint just starts singing to himself, "I can do this all day."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they'd do that.
So what's next?
We know what's next.
No, we don't. Let's talk about other stuff first. Again, I want to leave the one where I'm going to be hypest for later. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 trailer dropped yesterday.
Haven't watched it. I don't want to watch that one. I don't want to watch the trailer because I really want to watch the movie. I'm doing what you're doing with No Way Home.
I guess, but I've seen the first trailer to No Way Home.
I don't want to go there. Okay. I'm doing my best not to watch it.
I mean, the trailer has like literally nothing story revealed in it.
Does it?
No, it's literally just like a very loose premise and some cool visuals, basically. Would you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah. I think it
hints
does
at
give
some stuff, but like nothing major.
Does it have a release date?
I can't remember actually. But
I think
obviously,
I think it does reveal one big thing, but if you saw the first one, you'd kind of know it was coming anyway.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, we're gonna talk about it. So Tommy, either you or declare that you don't care about a thing that was already revealed in the first film, which is just confirmed in the trailer.
I'm gonna assume that's to do with the wormhole that opens up at the end.
Well, sure, there's that as well, but I was thinking more another thing. But make you cool,
very
deafen
end of the
yourself, or
movie.
yeah, deafen yourself, or just allow us to talk about it.
I'm gonna dip out for 5.
Okay.
Peace.
Okay.
Hey,
Goodbye.
he's still not deafened.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So the Into the Spider-Verse trailer. One weird thing right off the bat. So Tommy mentioned like the wormhole opening up at the end of the first film. It seems to be basically the same scene, but they've like aged up the characters, which is
Yeah, that's
interesting.
what I thought. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was watching it and I was thinking, like, have they actually aged them up, or is that just like, do I just not remember them looking like that?
They've 100% aged them up, but I guess the question is then, is this the exact same scene from the end of the first film? In which case, I guess like that end scene instead took place like a year or so later, or was that the first time she hopped over and they just like hung out or whatever, and then she hops over again? Because he doesn't seem, again, the trailer kind of cut around it maybe because it's not the full scene, but he doesn't seem that surprised that she can come through a wormhole. So yeah, it could just be that they occasionally get to go through wormholes together and occasionally visit each other. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I like the redesigns. We are
Mm.
100%. This is just like Haley Steinfeld's like time, because we've got Arcane followed by Hawkeye followed by this trailer dropping a couple of weeks later. So
Is she playing Gwen?
yeah, she played Gwen in the first film as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was really funny. I saw a comment on the trailer which was like, "I'm getting massive Vi vibes from Gwen for some reason." I was like, "That's because it's the same voice actress." If anything,
Pretty similar hairstyle too.
yeah, if anything, Vi should be giving you Gwen vibes, but um, but although I don't really imagine Gwen like snorting blood out of her nose during a fist fight at any point in the film. Maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't think she's gonna be quite as like badass as Vi. But
Yeah.
but no, like I like what we saw. It's very teasery, but obviously like the big thing is we're getting Spider-Man
2099.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember which year it is now.
Yeah.
Also, Miles' suit is slightly different, which is cool. Like it's more his own suit, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see. But I think one of the cool things to see is that we're gonna get more visual styles, because as he's like going through the wormhole, obviously like we've seen the characters who came over to his world in the first film all kept their own art styles, which is kind of therefore weird that he's going into these different universes in the second one. Oh no, but that's not true, because Spider-Man 2099 obviously adopted the style during the post-credit scene of like the classic animated TV show. So I guess like some of them have and some of them haven't. But yeah, I guess it's going to be cool to see like different art styles during the film. I think that's a really cool way to keep it innovative and invested. Also, it's part one. It's part one.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
know.
I saw someone make the point. It's like, can you remember the last time that a film company committed to a part one and part two this like boldly? Because even something like Infinity War, which was originally Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, they then went, it's actually Infinity War and Endgame. Like the two, they almost went like, it's not a Part 1 and Part 2, it's actually two separate films. Obviously, like Dune, they didn't commit to a Part 2 until Part 1 had done pretty well. So like, it's cool just to see a studio come out and be like, we're doing a two-part. That's what we're doing. That's the plan. So
yeah, I'm really happy with that. I think I said straight after, I'd be happy if they made a few of these films, even if they got worse and worse. I think I it's one of those things where I already know I don't think I get bored of it. Like the concept, and it's weird because I, after there were so many rumors and everything about Spider-Man No Way Home being a multiverse film, I was so adamantly against it because I really just didn't fucking want it. But I love Into the Spider-Verse. Like I think they do the concept so well, and I think they can do it better than like I think we can see more stuff because it's going back to what I said a couple of podcasts ago in that it's animation. You know, and as you said about the different styles, they can change your styles and everything, and instead of just having, you know, like I don't know how to put it, but like if you tried adapting those different styles to live action, I feel like it would just be super weird and like yeah, it just wouldn't work.
I think one thing that would be really cool to do in this film or a future film is maybe have him like fall through a wormhole briefly into the MCU and have him just like very briefly be live action. But I would, if you're gonna do that, make it like a 10-second scene of him like falling into Peter's bedroom, and then you just have Tom Holland be like, "What the hell?" And then you just have like the guy who voice acts Smiles just be like, "Huh?" And then he just falls into another wormhole or something like that. That would be really cool. It's just like a little like but like I don't want a full like crossover thing. But I think that was my one concern when they first kind of announced No Way Home and like the theories that it was going to be a multiverse film. I was like, I really don't want you to just try and redo Spider-Verse, because Spider-Verse, in my opinion, is the best Spider-Man film. Like I love the Raimi trilogy. I really like the Tom Holland films, but like Spider-Verse is just perfect pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just really don't want them to go, oh, Spider-Verse was successful, let's just do that but live action in the MCU. I was like, that's just lazy. What we've seen from the first trailer, because I've avoided everything else, it doesn't look like they're actually doing that. They're doing a multiverse thing, and obviously like Spider-Man's had multiverse stories before, and in general the MCU is doing multiverse stuff, but it seems like it's different Spider-Verse, which is good. So
yeah, and I'm curious to see whether or not we're gonna have a like a group of Spider-Men like in the first film or not.
I reckon we're at least gonna get 3, which is Gwen, Miles, and I can't actually remember. I can't remember his actual name. It's like Ramon or something, isn't it? I can't remember what's his actual name.
Oh shit.
It's gonna bug me.
I feel like it's Michael O something.
But yeah. So I reckon we're at the very least gonna get those 3. But do you think? Because obviously like the post-credit scene from the last film, do you think the classic Spider-Man TV show is gonna be relevant in any way, or do you think they're just gonna have that be a little Easter egg?
I think that's just a joke.
Miguel O'Hara, you're pretty close.
Miguel, fuck yeah.
But yeah, so I reckon it's going to be those 3. I don't reckon we're going to get a Peter Parker in this. Well, maybe we'll get a Peter Parker in this film, but like I don't know, we don't need him. I'm pretty sure as well. I haven't heard anything about this recently, but you were saying about wanting more of them. Pretty sure after Spider-Verse's success, they announced a sequel, which obviously is this, and they were going to do a Gwen spin-off film, which I haven't heard anything about since, but I don't think it's been cancelled. So we're at the very least getting 3 more films, I reckon. So.
I am totally down for that. I know you said we don't need Peter Parker, but I would really like to see Peter B. Parker again, and just like I just want confirmation that he got his life back on track. Like he's a boy. Come on.
I think it would be cool, but I don't know whether we need him from like a. I feel like his story is pretty complete, but like maybe a cameo or something. At the same time, if they're gonna bring him in, I really like that portrayal of Peter Parker. I really like. I can't remember. Is it Jake? I can't remember his surname. The guy from New Girl. He portrayed Peter Parker, and I think he did a really good job.
I don't know who he is in New Girl. I've never seen it, but I know
he's Nick in New Girl. The main romance for Zoe Deschanel.
We're still talking, Tom. Go away.
I caved.
Jake Johnson was his name.
You caved. Oh, you've seen the trailer now, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we were talking about Spider-Man 2099 anyway.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
That's what we were referring to.
Yeah.
So what do you think now that you've seen it?
I think that now I've opened the floodgates of myself, and now all I can think about is Across the Spider-Verse.
There is a meme going on at the moment, which is like, it's like, you know, different meme templates, but the same premise, which is Spider-Man No Way Home, and then someone going, "I don't give a shit about you anymore," and then just turning to Across the Spider-Verse, because it's like, I do care about No Way Home, and it's coming out in like just over a week, but I'm so much more hyped for Across the Spider-Verse because Into the Spider-Verse is just such a fucking good film.
Yeah.
So.
I had to kind of even myself out a bit by injecting myself with the new Matrix trailer as well. I feel a bit better now.
I haven't watched the new Matrix trailer, but I do have something else Matrix related I want to talk about later on the podcast.
Okay.
But,
the trailer is very good, keeping it short. Very good. But yeah.
But yeah, hype for Across the Spider-Verse. Very hype.
Part 1. I
Part
see.
1. Yep. So there's going to be 2
yeah.
parts. All right.
I'm like actually really excited for Miguel O'Hara. Like
Yeah.
I'm ever since we got that Easter egg at the end, I was really hoping we get more Spider-Man 2099. So it looks to be like he's going to be a decent part of it. So
Yeah, the fact that he's very boldly in the trailer makes me think he's going to be like at the very least one of the 3 main characters in the film.
all right, yeah, he could be replacing Peter B. Parker as like one of like the main sort of other Spider-Man.
Yeah, I reckon that might be the way they take it. I think it's also interesting that now we've obviously got Haley Steinfeld playing Gwen, and she plays Kate Bishop. We've obviously got Oscar Isaac playing Miguel O'Hara, and also he is going to be playing, or is currently, he's done the show, it's just not released yet, Moon Knight. So who else is going to cross over from the MCU and portray someone in the Spider-Verse verse? I wonder.
I don't know.
But yeah, very hyped for it. Let's next on there, because again I'm stalling for the big one that I want to talk about. You posted something today that I find funny.
Oh, the Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, I haven't actually clicked this link. Let me have a quick read for it. Is this the one with like Matt Smith in it and everything?
I don't think it's
No,
that one.
it isn't.
No, it's a different one.
And that's
Okay.
kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I looked at that. Basically, I found this article saying that they cancelled Game of Thrones prequel show, and I thought that was the Matt Smith one, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I was kind of looking forward to that because it might actually be better than the 8th season, which doesn't exist.
Not a very high bar to set.
Well, exactly. So that's why I was looking forward to it. And I was like, oh, that's such a bummer. And I looked into it, and it isn't. I wasn't even aware that they were trying to make any other shows except for the one with Matt Smith.
I was aware of it. They like, I think they announced like 3 or 4 of them, but I didn't know that any of them had been shot other than House of the Dragon.
I think it was supposed to be about like the Night King, his creation, all that, or something.
I'm just reading through it now.
No, it says something about the Age of Heroes or something. I don't know what that is.
That's like they barely touched on it in the actual show. The guy who everyone thought Jon Snow was going to be.
Oh,
Azor
the
Ahai.
like flame bringer or whatever.
Stuff like that.
That
it doesn't actually say what this show was about, other than it's not the House of the Dragon one, and what it was based on. What was it based on again? Based on the Long Night and Age of Heroes. Well, the Long Night is the thing where the White Walkers came. That's what they talk about, the Long Night. So yeah, it would have been the story about the First Men and the Children of the Forest and the creation of the White, like the first conflict with the White Walkers. So yeah, you're right, Tommy. Doesn't mention anything about Azor Ahai in the wiki post I went to, but I'm pretty sure Azor Ahai is the one who ended that fight, so maybe he would have shown up. But Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that hyped for House of the Dragon though. I don't know if I care anymore. I think I've been holding off of reading A Song of Ice and Fire, the book series that Game of Thrones is based on, until George R. R. Martin fucking finishes the series, which he's got 2 more books to finish, and he's gone and written.
Takes his time.
Well, he's taken his time and gone and written a fucking video game rather than finishing off the 2 books that everyone's waiting for. Honestly, part of me thinks that he's now just like, obviously he does take a long time to write his books, but I'm wondering whether part of it is also him just going like, I'm just gonna distance myself from Game of Thrones and wait for that to all die down for a bit, and then maybe I'll come back to it, sort of thing. Because I'm not sure, particularly if like the broad strokes of that plot are the same. I'm not sure I'd want to release.
I think it is. I reckon that it isn't too dissimilar from the actual TV show, and he's.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, Danny's thing is going to be the same. I'm not sure about the. I don't think that Arya's going to be Azor Ahai in the books because it doesn't fit. From what I understand of what they've done in the books, there's like obviously in the show there's like 0 hints that she's Azor Ahai, but also in the books I'm pretty sure there's 0 hints that she would be Azor Ahai. And then I don't know about Bran. Spoilers for Game of Thrones season 8 if you care. It's like 3 years old and shit.
How can you spoil what doesn't exist?
But Bran becoming the king, I'm not sure whether that's going to happen, but I could see it happening in the books. But I think the Danny thing's pretty solidly fixed in. But obviously what the books will do, because they will be longer anyway, so it'd always fill it out more than the show, but also the show just did it shittly. That's not a word. They did it badly. But yeah, I reckon that, you know, even with those plot points staying the same, it will just work better in book form. So,
well, I mean, yeah, I kind of always expected Daenerys to go fucking crazy at some point. I just didn't expect her to just randomly snap.
Yeah, because it is hinted at multiple times in the show, but it is just like such a 180 suddenly for very little reason, really, in the show.
She's like, oh, we've taken it. Might as well just fucking finish the job. Like, it just, you know, go against everything we've been working towards, you know.
I'm going to break the wheel. Actually, you know what? I feel like fixing the wheel again.
Yeah.
But, no, I think I watch a YouTuber called AltShiftX. Highly recommend him if you do like the lore of Game of Thrones, because he's done loads of videos about fan theories and like tying stuff to the books and using evidence from the books to support fan theories. And one of the ones he talked about, I'm going to forget the details of it, is the guy who is the three-eyed raven, if memory serves, and this is a video I watched a long time ago, but in the books, the guy who is the three-eyed raven is kind of a conqueror, and he might even be a Targaryen. And like he was like,
I think he's a Targaryen,
or he was helping the Targaryens or something. And his plan was to basically conquer the kingdoms. And then he became the three-eyed raven, became too old and whatever to do it. And the theory was that, because this hasn't happened yet in the books, is that he was going to basically take over Bran's body and basically just kill Bran and make him his host, and then become the king. And like that as a plot idea, quite cool. Same broad stroke, but much cooler and more interesting and seeped in this deep lore than just, I've had such a long journey and it was always bringing me here, or whatever the fuck the quote is. Which,
the greatest story of them all.
And even though previously he explicitly said to someone, like, since, you know, becoming the three-eyed raven, he had said, oh, I don't want to rule over anyone. And then he's like, yeah, but I'll become the fucking king, hell yeah.
Well, he said, I'm pretty sure he said, like, oh, I don't want any more, or something like that. Like, it was very, he even said, like, I can't fuck, I know. He said something very specific that meant he couldn't rule over anyone.
followed by, "Why do you think I came all this way?"
Yeah, that
That was the line that I was trying to think of. Yeah.
It was so fucking bad. That was literally the worst. No, I'm not even going to say that because there's so many bad things that I can't even choose what the worst part of it was.
Completely distracted me from the water bottle that was in that scene.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like not that fussed. I'll probably watch House of the Dragon when it comes out, but I saw the trailer and was like, I just don't know if I care. Like, I just also Matt Smith looks dumb with that wig. I'm sorry.
He does.
You know when Henry Cavill was first revealed as Geralt, and there was like that I can't remember what the phrase is for it, but like the costume test or whatever, makeup and costume test, and it's him
Oh,
wearing
and
like,
everyone looked like testicles. Are you on about the?
no, I
milk
wasn't talking
carts?
about that. I was just talking about like the very first video where they were like, "Hey, Henry Cavill as Geralt," and it was like a makeup
Right.
test with him, the eyes and the wig. But obviously, like things like that, when it's a makeup test, they haven't finished it yet, and it's not like full production costs or whatever. So the costume didn't look great, and the wig was clearly a pretty cheap wig, and people fucking slaughtered it. They were like, "He looks shit. He looks like he belongs to Power Rangers or something." And obviously in the show, he looks a lot better because they actually put the money and the budget into making it look as good as it can. But like the stills from the set of House of the Dragon, so not a makeup test, but actual photos taken, EPK is what they're called, electronic press kit, from the days of filming, Matt Smith's wig looks about as bad as Henry Cavill's did in that makeup test. I'm like, ooh, yeah. Bleach blonde it's a hard look to do. But
Do you think it'll flop?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know whether most people care enough to bother like getting, like, if it's good, people will flock back to it, but like if it's mediocre, then I'm not sure whether the fact that it's a Game of Thrones prequel is going to get people to come back to it, sort of thing.
I don't think it's going to do very well.
No,
Personally.
I reckon at the very least it's going to do worse than what they hope it will do. Like, I don't necessarily think it will do badly, but if they want, I don't know, 500,000 people tuning in, I don't even know what the metric would be, like 500,000, 1 million, I don't know what would be a reasonable expectation, but whatever they think it's going to be based on like Game of Thrones success, it probably won't be that successful on its opening release day or whatever.
I think if season 8 wasn't an absolute fucking shit show, I think this series probably would do like pretty well. And I think even if it is like a really good series, I just think people just don't trust the Game of Thrones name anymore.
I don't know. I'm of a mixed bag because on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, but this isn't being done by the same people. This isn't D.B. West and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, D&D, but it's not being done by them, so it's not the same showrunners, it's not the same writing team, it's just HBO and possibly some crew people coming back.
But do people care enough about?
But do people even know that?
that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, because like on the one hand, I'm like, oh, surely most people know that, but on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, but I probably read more about this bullshit than the average person. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think now's the time.
Sure, you don't want to get media that we've consumed in the week out of the way before we do whatever you're gonna do? I don't know what you would do.
That's a closing thing.
It's not always a closing thing. It's whenever. It's whenever. But at the same time, if people have tuned out at this point, then I want to get it in as early as possible. So, today, I think it was Cine List or whatever. I'm looking up who it was who interviewed him. Just because I want to give credit where credit's due. Cinema Blend had an interview with Kevin Feige, and I'm blanking on her name, but the producer of all of the Spider-Man films who works for Sony. Not Amy Hennig, that's the person who did Uncharted. I can't remember what her name is. Anyways, it was with them, so basically the two producers of No Way Home. And the interviewer asked about Daredevil. And Kevin Feige, who's usually very secretive about everything Marvel, went, and I'm going to quote exactly because I do think the quote is needed exactly. I'm seeing it being misquoted a lot in headlines, including the one I posted. Kevin Feige said, if you were to see Daredevil in upcoming things, Charlie Cox, yes, would be the actor playing Daredevil. Where we see that, how we see that, when we see that, remains to be seen. So there is an if there. There isn't a, you will see Charlie Cox. It was a, if we're going to ever do Daredevil, it's going to be Charlie Cox. So again, in the same vein as like it's not 100% Kingpin in Hawkeye, I don't think it's 100% confirmed that we're getting Daredevil back. But we're getting Daredevil back. This one I do have hope.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that we're getting him back.
My logic for it is I don't think Kevin Feige would even say anything if the way I put it is this, right? They can't say that they would 100% get Charlie Cox to come back as Daredevil if they didn't know that Charlie Cox, one, wanted to, which he's very vocal about, and two, that his schedule would line up. Because if they were like planning to use him in something, it's going to be one of two things, right? Either they aren't actually planning to use him in anything yet, they're just saying that they would love to bring him back, or if he is planned to be in something, like for instance the Echo TV show, he wouldn't say that unless he knew that Charlie Cox would be free to film that. Because he wouldn't make that promise and then go, shit, we wanted Daredevil on our show and the actor who we wanted to bring him back isn't able to play him, sort of thing. So
yeah. Well, all I can say is I want John Bernthal back.
I think John Bernthal's been pretty vocal about wanting to return as Punisher if the opportunity arose. I couldn't find anything about. I did a quick Google today. I couldn't find anything about it, so I might be completely just like pulling this out of my ass. But I thought I read once that Kristen Ritter kind of said that she was done with Jessica Jones and like didn't have any interest in returning because she thought they had done the story she wanted to tell. But I couldn't see anything about that today when I tried to find it. Obviously, one of those things though where because they announced something about Netflix Marvel, like loads of articles about Kristen Ritter were just today and not making any mention of that. But she might have said that, but I think she was really good in that role. I know you didn't like the show, but I think she suited that character really well. And then I don't know whether Finn Jones or I can't remember who played Luke Cage, so I'm just Googling it, Mike Colter. I don't know whether either of them have said anything about whether they would want to return or not, but
I think Mike Colter is perfect for Luke Cage.
I agree.
I think he was absolutely fucking spot on. And like I don't particularly care if Luke Cage comes back, but out of him, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, I 100% want him to come back over the other two. Like I think even though I have my gripes with how they ended Luke Cage season 2, I think there is a lot of room to do something there. And I'd still like to see him interact with a few other characters.
I also think if you're going to bring any of them back in terms of telling a story of people who are underrepresented, like that was one of the things that Luke Cage was really praised for, is that like it was representation of like a very honest African American, life of a man who is literally bulletproof in a world where that's a superpower that a lot of people would want. I'm kind of skirting around the edges of going too political with this, but like it is a very politically charged show, and that's an interesting premise. And obviously, like with Daredevil, you've got a person with a disability as a superhero. That's a really interesting premise. And then with Punisher, you've got a man who is suffering from severe PTSD, and an exploration of the military in America. That's an interesting premise. And then Jessica Jones, you've got an alcoholic woman who has survived severe trauma. That's an interesting premise. I don't really think Iron Fist is that interesting of a premise, to be honest with you, ignoring the Finn Jones thing. I think the character's fine in the comics, but like if you had to bring any of them back, 4 of those characters have really interesting stories that people would appreciate seeing more of in terms of representation of a story that you don't often see, particularly in a world like the Marvel universe. And then Iron Fist is just white boy Shang-Chi at this point. So
I think also I just kind of want to say that like with Luke Cage, I feel like the reason I liked it so much was because it felt very natural.
Mm.
Like I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed everything that was it was doing, and obviously it did explore, quite a bit, their sort of culture, I suppose. I don't really know how to put it.
Mm.
And I feel like it did it in a kind of natural way that fit into the story, but it still like left room for the real world to sort of seep in, and like their surroundings and everything. Like it all just fit in very tightly. And I'd contrast it to something like Black Lightning,
Mm.
which I think is fucking terrible. Right? It's like I
Forgot
don't
about that
think
show.
Never
there's
bothered to watch
there's
it.
there's got to be like not a single second in that show where it's not just playing like the worst hip hop songs, like like it's so bad. It's just always dark. It's like it's constantly like it, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to start like if people like the show I don't want to start offending them or anything. But it's too much. It's way too much. Like it just kind of pushes the story aside to try and get this like I I really don't know how to describe it.
Well,
It's just over the top. Whereas Luke Cage, I felt got it just right.
I think the thing with Luke Cage as well, more so than any of the other Netflix shows or any of the rest of the MCU really, is I really like when a world like the MCU, this established cinematic universe, kind of shows us glimpses of normal people and how normal
Mm.
people react to all of this going around. And like you get that in little dribs and drabs in mainstay MCU, but like even a character like Kate Bishop is like, okay, she's a normal person who's reacting to superheroes, but at the same time she's super fucking rich and learned all these super skills so that she's as good as Hawkeye, if not better. So it's like she's still a bit of an abnormality. But then you've got things like I really like the little bit in the first episode of Hawkeye where you've got Thanos was right written on a urinal. Because like you could totally believe some fuckwit writing that on a urinal in a toilet somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And Luke Cage, I think, nailed that real world people living in a world with superheroes. With, in particular, there's a character who sells DVDs of, I think it was referred to as the incident in the Netflix universe of the Battle of New York, and then he like does videos of Luke Cage and whatever, and it felt like, yeah, that's how people would react to that sort of thing, and Luke Cage becomes a folk hero, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I can totally believe all of that. And it's like it's that perfect balance of feeling like it's set in the real world, but also the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think, as much as I love Daredevil and Punisher, they feel like they're in their own world. It can be the MCU, but it doesn't really feel like the MCU. It feels like it's like essentially like Marvel Knights sort of thing, where it's this like much darker world. And it's not that Luke Cage didn't have those moments, because it had very adult themes and lots of gore and whatever, but it also like just felt very natural and down to earth in a way that the other shows don't necessarily. So
Yeah, definitely.
until
I mean,
Diamondback in
convinced.
the final episode of season 1, that was a bit stupid.
Okay, but I mean, fuck it. I'm convinced I want Luke Cage back as well now.
But I think if they do plan to bring Charlie Cox back, there is no reason why they can't look to bring the others back. I don't know the numbers. I don't think Netflix publishes the numbers, but it's widely reported that Daredevil was the most popular of those shows, and I believe it was said when the first season came out, it was the most watched Netflix original show at the time. Probably, well, it's definitely not that anymore because other stuff has come out, but so it makes sense that's the one that they care most about sorting out. But again, if they're willing to do that with one character, I don't see why they can't do that with the others.
Well, I'm pretty sure they've like a couple of people from like Marvel or I don't know exactly who, but over the many months of seeing rumors of Charlie Cox and John Bernthal coming back to the MCU, blah blah blah. I've seen a couple of articles or a few that seem to uh, sort of like agree with each other, saying that a couple of people from Marvel said, you know, if they're going to bring back any of the characters from the Netflix shows, it's going to be Daredevil and the Punisher, and that they prioritize them. So I'm hoping if Daredevil's coming back, Punisher will be too, because I just want my Punisher. I just want my baby back.
They made a really good team as well.
They did. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I'd want to see them team up again, at least until Frank goes full Punisher, because like the one you see in Daredevil season 2 is still very much a Frank Castle kind of dabbling with that Punisher stuff, and then at the very end he makes the Punisher suit, but then he burns the Punisher suit at the beginning of Punisher season 1, and then doesn't make it again until the end of season 1, and then he doesn't wear it until like the end of season 2 again. So like it's very much him like not embracing it, and then at the end of season 2 the way they set it up was him fully embracing the Punisher persona. So like if we had a full season or a full whatever of Punisher being full-blown Punisher, and then have him and Daredevil team up / fight each other again, that could be interesting. But right now if they did it again, it would just be a rehash of what's already been done, so which is cool, but I don't need to see it again because I can just watch Daredevil season 2. But the one thing I really hope though is I genuinely don't particularly care about the level of gore and violence. I hope that it's still like brutal, but I don't need to see like someone getting a knife kind of gutted through them or whatever. You don't need to show that in graphic detail for it to still...
I would like to see that.
I would like to see that too, but what I'm saying is that if we can't have that, like, you know, a prime example is Star Wars does lots of violence. It's like, ooh, violent, but isn't actually violent, and you still get that 12 rating sort of thing. So they could do that sort of thing with Punisher and Daredevil if they had to, if they wanted to keep it more accessible and more Marvel friendly. But I really hope they don't shy away from the level of depth of writing for those shows, because, you know, the one that really stands out to me as like a great scene of both of those characters is the scene in Daredevil season 2 where Frank collapses in the cemetery and he talks to Matt, or Daredevil, about like him, you know, giving up being the Punisher or giving up being this vigilante sort of thing. And it's basically just this monologue, pretty much. Like he has a couple of lines, Charlie Cox does, but John Bernthal basically just does this monologue about him coming home from war and, like, you know, seeing his kids and then how tired he was, and then the next day they got killed. And just, it's this really deep and dark and tragic monologue performed brilliantly by John Bernthal. And then you just have Charlie Cox listening to him, and it's just like, it's some of the best writing in Marvel, flat out, is that one scene. In general, those shows have great writing, but that one scene is just... So I really hope that they wouldn't go, oh, let's just throw in quips constantly because we're the Marvel universe. Like, I don't want that. Those characters don't... Like, they can quip, but I don't want them quipping every fucking 5 seconds, because that's not them. Like, if Daredevil showed up in Spider-Man, I would be fine with him quipping with Spider-Man. But when he's doing his own thing, he's not a very quippy person. So
I don't need Frank to quit. All I need is for John Bernthal to just yell, "You're goddamn right!" That's all I need. That's all I need from him.
Hoorah.
That kind of filled the need to hear it a little bit. Thanks for that.
But
I'm the big bad Punisher. Is that what you want to hear?
But yeah, I want them to keep that level of insane writing, and I also want ultra violence.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm talking Punisher Warzone ultra violence. I'm talking like fucking parkour guy falling onto a spike and then Punisher jumping off and stepping on his face or landing on his face and like breaking his neck backwards type ultra violence.
I'm not sure we're going to get that level of violence. We might get similar to the Punisher show level of violence, but I think is I don't think there's any reason why they can't. It's just at the same time, I don't see a world where Disney Plus now has adult content on it under the Stars banner. So there's no reason why it can't be on Disney Plus, but I think it would be a very fine line for them to walk, which I'm not sure they'd be willing to walk, where you have, for instance, if Daredevil did a team up with Spider-Man, very kid-friendly, and then kids are like, oh, I like that character, I want to see more of him, and then they go watch a Daredevil Disney Plus show where Wilson Fisk fucking beheads a guy with a car door. Don't see that quite happening. Like, I'm not sure they would be willing to do that. So I don't know.
Like little
Well,
child
I mean,
me watching Torchwood.
I mean, they never seem to, as we've been over, they don't address characters killing, so I'm sure they could.
They did in the Daredevil show, to be fair, and
did
in the
they?
Punisher show.
I could just imagine Spider-Man teaming up with the Punisher. Spider-Man just going on an absolute fucking murder spree, and then they just never talk about it again.
One thing I would love to see, I can't remember the exact premise of it, but there's a comic where Daredevil's without his suit, or like most of his suit, and he ends up wearing the Punisher t-shirt and going on a fucking, he doesn't kill anyone, but he goes on a fucking rampage wearing the Punisher t-shirt. That would be great. Obviously, like, Punisher doesn't wear a Punisher t-shirt in the show currently, but yeah. I mean, look, the thing that I think this indicates, I still don't know if we're gonna see Daredevil in No Way Home. Again, I haven't looked at them because I'm intentionally avoiding everything, but supposedly, word is on the street, there are some leaked set photos of Charlie Cox being on the set of No Way Home. Likewise, there are ones about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, so I don't know how trustworthy any of them are. We'll see in just over a week. But I think with that talk from Kevin Feige, that makes it seem very likely to me that Kingpin's probably going to be in Hawkeye, and then Daredevil's probably going to show up in Echo. I think that's very close to basically being confirmed at this point.
What I think he's saying it for is because I don't think Daredevil's going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home.
No, I don't think so.
And obviously he came out saying, you guys are coming up with a lot of rumors, and we don't want you to be disappointed. So I think that might be.
I think that was the director who said that, but
Kevin Feige said it.
Oh, did he? I think the director said something like, "I don't think we can make a film that's going to satisfy everyone."
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. But I think that might be kind of crowd control on that a little bit, because if people know that, okay, we'll get Charlie Cox back if we do Daredevil.
Yeah.
It's gonna do it for a lot of people at least.
Yeah. But I do think what's probably going to happen is with Daredevil specifically, we're probably going to either get a film or a TV show returning. I hope it's a TV show because I've said this before. I think superheroes, generally speaking, work better in a serialized format because that's what the comics are serials. And then big stories can be movies, but ultimately it's better to have these episodic adventures, and also you see more of them grow and such like. So, I prefer if they were going to bring him back for it to be as a TV show, but I reckon what's going to happen is he's going to appear in a handful of stuff, and maybe some of his supporting cast will appear in a handful of stuff, and then they'll greenlight a Daredevil TV show. So, like, maybe we get Kingpin in Hawkeye, maybe we get Daredevil in Echo, maybe he appears in She-Hulk, and then we get a Daredevil TV show down the line, is where I reckon it would go.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, Christ. I just kind of thought, if we get Daredevil back, it also means Karen Page is probably coming back.
Yeah, probably.
Oh.
Great character.
Oh.
Probably get killed. Don't worry.
I really hope they don't.
I hope so.
I mean, on the one hand, would I love it if Bullseye started killing enough of Daredevil's girlfriends that eventually Daredevil grabs a sharp rock and carves a bullseye into Bullseye's forehead and then tells him he should commit suicide like he did in the comics? That's fucking dark, but yeah, I kind of would want to see that adapted straight to the live action, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, you've already killed off Elektra and then brought her back. I feel like if you... Obviously, the comics have gone on for a long time, so it's understandable that they've killed off a lot of his girlfriends, but it's also just so generic that I kind of don't want them to do that. And they've done cool stuff with that, like in Daredevil Season 3, which Alex hasn't watched yet. There is a hint that they're going to do pretty much straight up how Karen Page dies in the comics, and then they take it a different route. That's what I'm going to say. So, but I like Karen Page's character, so I'm hoping that... I'm hoping that if they are bringing Charlie Cox back, they'll bring back all of the supporting cast as well, or like all the main people. I want Brett Mahoney back as well. He was great, and Turk Barrett is great. But you know, I think Charlie Cox has said before that if he was to return as Daredevil, it might be a different Daredevil, and I think that could be the case. In which case, they might bring him back, and they might bring back some of the actors, but they might be completely different versions of the characters, or they might go, there's no room for Karen Page in the MCU Daredevil and cut her character, which I think would be a shame. But you know,
if they brought back Karen Page, but she wasn't on the verge of tears 24/7, I might be okay with that.
What if they brought back Karen Page and she jumped on a guy's head who'd fallen on a spike? Would you be okay with that?
I mean, yeah, if she was into the ultraviolence, sure,
Yeah,
bring it
just
on.
gumba stomp him.
I mean, if she was brutal, you know, and again, didn't look like she was just going to burst out crying any moment and just whining all the time, sure.
Maybe she, she's crying because she feels what you're feeling and she just wants the ultraviolence back.
She just wants her character gone.
Yikes, dude.
I think Karen Page is a really well written character, or a really good story arc over the 3 seasons of Daredevil, and I hope she returns and they continue her story arc.
I agree.
I think she was just fucking annoying. And why did she have to be in the Punisher? Why? She was the worst part of it.
She's in like 2 scenes over 2 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. The worst part of it.
All right, but yeah, I'm hopeful. I've been given hope, and it's a dangerous thing, hope, because it's contagious, or something like that in Doctor. No, the dangerous thing about hope is it's very hard to resist. Doctor Who. Speaking of, Doctor Who's wrapped up its final season of Jodie Whittaker, although she's getting 2 more specials. But
I was about to ask if she did yet.
no, she's getting a New Year's special this year, or I guess next year technically. And then their 60th anniversary is supposedly going to be when she regenerates and the new Doctor takes over, which will be, I believe, 2023. I think is the 60th anniversary, maybe 2024. I can't remember the exact date, but that'll be when Russell T Davies has taken over because he's doing the 60th anniversary. So
yeah, wake me up when Russell T Davies is back.
End of September, I think.
Is it genuinely at the end of?
No, I think the Doctor Who anniversary is
Please.
August. I think it's August, so it's just before. But cool. I think that's all the big topics we want to talk through, though.
I think so too.
Pieces of media that we have consumed this week.
Yes.
Nice.
I feel like that was a very tight title.
Yeah, because he said it rather than me. I always intentionally fuck it
Yeah.
up and just like say something different. He just delivers it perfectly.
I feel like Tom wasn't even going for that. I feel like it just happened to like stumble out of his mouth, just all neat and tidy.
That's because it's my favourite segment.
I quite enjoy this segment. Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Alex, what were the pieces of media that you have consumed this week?
Honestly, haven't really watched or read or played anything new.
Just Percy Jackson this time. Just Percy Jackson.
No.
Okay,
Just on
moving
repeat 24/7.
No, I mean I can bring back an old favorite. And by old favorite, I mean the thing I've been talking about for the last few weeks. Can give you a little bit of an update on the Witcher books. Oh, Tom's off.
Do we have any drinks? You can go grab them from the fridge. We'll just have a quick coffee break and come back in 5.
Yeah. All this mead or schnapps.
Sorry.
So yeah, I've got about 25 minutes left of my audiobook, the fourth in the series. I'm really enjoying it. You know, it's just really good to listen to. It sets up such a insanely detailed world. You know, it like I keep thinking to myself, this is I feel like this setting is something I'd never sort of get into, but they do such a great job, especially the voice actor that's narrating it. Like the way he switches between all the characters, gives them their own separate voices and everything, and then like uses the different characters um like I'm just awestruck. Literally, I can't say anything more. That's it.
I have no idea
Okay.
who the voice actor is for the audiobooks, and I don't know what his Geralt voice sounds like, but I'm sorry, it's never going to be as good as Doug Cockles, Winds Howling, Evil
Oh,
is Evil.
I prefer the audiobook.
That's because it's
honestly.
your first one that you've been exposed to, but Doug Cockles perfect as Geralt. Fancy a
Well,
round of Gwent?
but how do you know he's perfect as Geralt?
Because he is. I've played 3 games with him. No, 2 games with him. I've never played Witcher 1, I just watched some of it.
He is
Well,
perfect, isn't
The other guy might be great as well, because I haven't
I've
heard
read
him.
almost 4 books of it, and he's perfect as Geralt.
I
he?
guarantee
You
I've
haven't read a
spent more.
single book of it.
I guarantee, yeah,
Huh?
that's that
Yeah.
too. But I guarantee
Also-
I've spent more time with Doug Cockle's voice as Geralt than you've spent with whoever's voicing Geralt in the audiobooks. Because again, it's like 170 hours on Witcher 3. So
In your words, you haven't read a single book of it. You've stared around, not knowing what to focus in the room while you listen to it.
Well, yeah, okay.
hold on,
Same
hold on.
thing.
1 second.
Now I'm curious. Ah, right. Okay, yeah, I know what he's doing.
I double muted myself. I'm going to quickly read more of The Witcher than Alex ever has. She came to him. No, she came to him towards morning. She entered very carefully, moving silently, floating through the chamber like a phantom. The only sound was that of her mantle brushing her naked skin. There, done.
You could have just read the title.
True. And that's a spoiler for later on when I read The Last Wish, because that's the first time I've picked up that book, because I'm going to read the Ninth Expanse book first. But
I feel like the game Geralt, he doesn't have any like emotion in his voice.
he does.
He does.
Does he?
You haven't even played it that much.
I've watched a shit ton of cutscenes from it though.
No, it's nuanced and subtle, but he absolutely puts a lot of
Yeah.
emotion into his voice. For instance, Fancy a Round of Gwent is like so emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Winds howling. No, but genuinely, he does put
What
a
he
lot of
means
emotion
is
into
his soul's howling.
How do you like that silver? That's him asking how they liked the silver sword that he just hit them with.
Mm-hmm.
Roach.
Pete, what have you consumed?
What have I consumed? I've consumed Ruined King, a League of Legends story. Last time we'd spoken about it, I played about an hour and a half of it. Now I've played 46 or so hours of it and have finished it. So, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It takes a while to get going. It's a very slow start, and it's like it ends up with there being 6 playable characters that you can switch between, and you can have a party of 3. And so once you've got all 6 of them, that's when the game like properly gets going. You get the 6th one actually like reasonably late into the game, so I'd say like when you've gotten like 4 or 5 of them. But early on in the game, it's like, right, you're playing as Misfortune for this segment, and then it's like, okay, now you're playing as Alawe, and then right now you're playing as Yasuo. And it's like when you're doing it one at a time like that, it's like you're really not getting the full potential of the game, and also it's just like it's setting up a lot of story. But then once you get multiple characters and the story properly gets going, it becomes really, really fun. The character interaction is great. I mean, it's similar to Arcane, where it's like a really well realized world. These 6 characters all feel really well realized. They've all got their own motivation for being on the journey. They've all got their own kind of challenges, and they have different relationships with each other. And literally every time you rest up at a campfire, which allows you to like regain your health and your mana, but also respawns all the enemies, like Dark Souls style, every time you do that, it gives you the option to listen to a rest conversation, which is just a conversation between two of the characters while they're sat at the campfire. And I did that every single time I went to a campfire. I listened to a rest conversation. I never had a duplicate, so I don't know how many there are. But like all of these, like, you know, tell you a little bit about these characters and the relationship they have. They all feel really fun. And then gameplay wise, it's turn-based combat. But we talked a little bit about how the initiative bar works, but it gets so in depth later on in the game because a lot of games allow you nowadays to change how you've leveled up your character, but Ruin King doesn't just allow you to, it actively encourages you to, because you get perk points and you can't buy more powerful perks until so like the most powerful perks cost 4 perk points. You will never just or you will very slowly get 4 perk points just to spend in one go. But what you can do is take off the one you've got for 1 perk point perk, then 2 from another one, etc., and refund them into your 4th perk point. And so it's like actively encouraging you to do that and find combinations that work for your playstyle. And that's really, really fun, working out the combinations that are going to work best for you. And so by the end of the game, I had Yasuo, who's like one of my favorite characters to play as, is like doing just crazy crit damage, and his crit chance is really, really high. And like all of that is just how I built that character. But at any point I could have completely changed it, and it was like a slow build up to that. But it's just really satisfying to build these combos that do crazy amounts of damage and complement each other. Also, Yasuo is Tommy's character from D&D, and Braum is Alex's character from our D&D campaign. They are literally just exactly the same personalities, and it's great.
I do the accent and everything.
The accent for Braum and Vilcrum is very close as well, which is hilarious. But it's
maybe I subconsciously based them on him. Who knows?
Who knows? But there's there's one of the rest conversations between Braum and Yasuo. Is like Braum comes up to Yasuo and goes, "Hello, friend. You're sitting all by yourself." "Yes, I don't want company." "Well, we can not have company together." It's like completely oblivious sort of thing.
That does sound pretty similar to
yeah. Every now and again when you're in a fight, he'll go, "Hello, friends. Why do we have to fight?" And then at the end of the fight, he goes, "We should have been friends." It's like that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's a really fun game. I think the only major criticism I have of the game, and I kind of voiced this to Callum, who hasn't joined us for the podcast, but he's just started, he's like very early on in the game, is there is a hard level cap at level 30, which is understandable. A lot of games have that. But I hit that not doing a load of side quests, but I was exclusively going after all of the most powerful ultimates, which are side quests, and all of the legendary weapons, which are side quests. And so by the time I hit level 30, I was still wrapping up some of those. And at that point, I wasn't gaining any XP from finishing fights, and also didn't need money anymore. So I wasn't, the fights weren't really, making me better in any way, which is fine because I was really good at fights at that point, except for the area I happened to be in when I hit the level cap. All of the enemies weren't difficult to beat at that point, but they just had so much health that each fight took like 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm just gonna start trying to avoid fights now because I'm not getting like any XP or money from them that's worthwhile. So yeah, that's the one minor criticism I have, but that was like maybe 2 or 3 hours before I finished the game. So yeah, would recommend, but slow starts. So
I refunded it, didn't I, last time?
yes, you did.
Refund it, yeah.
I did. I didn't actually buy Skyrim Anniversary Edition. So, I guess quick update, I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Is that all you've consumed this week, Pete?
Other than great sorrow at people wasting their money, I've also started with my mum the show Wheel of Time, which is on Amazon. It's all right.
Just all right.
It's very high budget, which is cool, and it's like big fantasy, but a lot of the actors are young, and I don't know. It's that thing where they're not bad actors, but they're not great. But also all of them have like a flaw that makes them really kind of annoying, except for one of them. but that one who doesn't have the flaw that makes him really annoying is just a mopey person all the time currently, for good reason. Like, you'll understand completely why he's mopey the entire time, but it's just like, he's not as fun to watch, but everyone else is kind of being a dick half the time, and that's kind of annoying. So yeah, but it's an interesting premise. Funnily enough, my driving instructor read the books and was talking to me about them when I was learning to drive a couple of years back, so I was aware of the IP, and apparently the books are really good, so I'm excited to see where it goes. But he also said that it was one of those ones that's basically impossible to adapt, so we'll see how well the TV show does at adapting a supposedly unadaptable book. But
I've also been playing some Bannerlord recently, and I was looking at mods, and I saw there was a Wheel of Time mod for it, and I'd never heard of Wheel of Time before, and I was just like, oh, it's just a fantasy mod. Like, I didn't know it existed, and then literally the next day, I looked on Amazon and I see the series, and I'm like, oh shit! I mean, I guess I might give that a go.
One funny thing is, one of the main characters' dad is played by the guy who played Lord Bolton from Game of Thrones. I can't remember his first name, but Ramsay Bolton's dad. Who's obviously like this super evil dude. And he's like just having this nice conversation with his son about how cute he was as a child. I'm like, I don't trust this guy. You got a dark secret. But yeah, no, it's fine. It's entertaining, but it's not blowing me away yet. But yeah.
Very cool.
What have you been consuming, Tommy?
I've been busy on the consuming this week.
Yeah, because
I've
been home all week basically.
Yeah, it's been a long week of me trying to find things to do, and I've picked up Rust for the first time in 2 years, and that's a very dangerous addiction to get into.
Strictly speaking, we've all consumed Rust this week.
We've all consumed Rust, but I have very much consumed Rust.
If you're tuning into the podcast because you saw a big sign on the side of a building on a Rust server saying "Tune into Higgledy Piggledy podcast," hi.
I saw that tonight before the podcast. That was when I first saw that.
I put that up yesterday before you went on your raid.
Scouting. Yeah.
Did you see the other sign on the other side of the building, by the way?
I didn't. I saw thick cock.
That's not me. That's not me who wrote that.
That'll be Alex.
That wasn't me. I'm pretty sure that was the sign James put up, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
I love how when Alex came on yesterday, he said, "Who put the sign cunt over my bedroom?" And I went, "Yeah, that was me." And he goes, "Why'd you call me a cunt?" I went, "To be fair, I didn't know it was your bedroom, but I don't take it back."
No, the only
I don't like being called a cunt.
No, the only sign I've put up was the one that said "fuck you" but upside down.
No, there's a sign on the other side of the building, Tommy, that says hemp for sale.
There genuinely is hemp
Exactly,
for sale.
that's why I put it up for you.
Yeah.
But,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, Rust's changed a lot since the last time I played it, but it's fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. If you can put up with the grief.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing for me, is I don't particularly like PvP in Rust. It kind of feels sluggish, and most people are just dicks in PvP.
Yeah, it's very much an acquired taste.
So, but what I ended up doing, because we popped on a server together, as I just started, like, there were boats in the game now, so I just became a boatman. And that was fun.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just like, I've become the farmer person that I hate in Minecraft.
Submarines too.
I saw a submarine. I was very tempted to buy a submarine, but then I had no fuel for it, so I didn't. And now I'm like learning how to build fishing related and boat related stuff instead.
Yeah, we're looking into getting a submarine soon, so I'll let you know when we get one.
Okay.
But yeah, what else have I consumed? I've Dexter New Blood, been catching up on Dexter New Blood, which is surprisingly good. You know, did you see an old show get brought back or an old movie getting brought back? You worry, but I'm enjoying it. Reading a couple of books. Been reading Dave Grohl's autobiography. I love Dave Grohl, so pretty good. He's a cool dude. Turns out his life's pretty cool too. Who'd have thought? And a book called The Bluest Eye, which is a bit of a depressing book about the Great Depression. So, yeah.
I don't get how
That's-
you can read multiple books at the same time.
It's a new thing. Normally I'd stick to one, but now I've got like 3 books on the go. So
Yeah, that sounds like my personal hell.
I couldn't read like like a fantasy novel and something else at the same time. I'd have to invest too much in that. But
When are you going to read the rest of The Expanse?
well, they're all in storage.
Did you buy more than the first one?
Yeah. What's the first one? Leviathan Wakes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got Caliban's War.
Caliban's was the second one. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I can just go and get them from my parents' house, and you can just read my copies.
But I need to read The Witcher. I want to read The Witcher
I thought you'd
more.
read The Witcher.
No, I haven't finished them.
Oh, Alex is going to
Alex
overtake you if he's listening.
He has overtaken
I
me,
already have overtaken.
but technically he hasn't because he hasn't read The Witcher.
He's consumed The Witcher, though.
Oh. Don't eat, Geralt.
Oh, don't worry. I'm gonna go back and read them as well.
You're gonna read them as well.
Oh yeah.
Were you planning to anyway? It's just because we're being arseholes
no.
about it.
I'm pretty sure I said the last time that I was gonna go back and read them anyway.
I don't know, but yeah,
Well, yeah, I was
I
planning
want
on it,
to.
but now I plan on it extra hard just to fuck you guys over.
Well, I'll probably burn through the Witcher books very quickly once Leviathan Falls comes out, and I burn through that very quickly. So
Very nice. I'll start on the games after I finish the books. However, I found out that they like the last Witcher book they released what fits in between
Lady the Lake, I think.
I think it's earlier than that. I think it fits in between the Sword of Destiny and Blood of Elves.
No, I thought you meant I meant the last book they
Oh
released.
no. It's like the season of Storms
Season
or
of
something.
Storms. Yeah.
Yeah, that it fits in earlier on into the books. And I'm like, well, fuck, I've been reading it chronologically. I thought I was on to something there, reading the anthologies and then jumping into Blood of Elves. Now I realize I've buggered it all up because there's one extra that I need to read.
but Season of Storms is the last one in the series.
Yeah, you
Pretty sure
read
it's
that one last.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like a flashback one. In my box set, it's the final one on the box set, and the box set starts with The Last Wish, which is one of the short story compilations.
Yeah.
So you
But
you are
it's-
reading it in the correct order or listening to it in the correct order.
But
I
but
think,
I want to.
yeah, but when it got brought out, that was considered when it was published. So it'll probably have things that you don't know about yet.
Which
Oh,
you're
right,
not
okay.
supposed to like read it earlier. It's supposed to be the final
Right.
story.
Okay, that puts my mind
Because
at
that wouldn't
ease a
make
bit.
any sense.
I mean,
Well,
people
yeah,
do
but the
that occasionally,
anthologies-
but
The
People do
anthologies
that
were brought
sometimes,
out-
but it's stupid.
Yeah, but the anthologies were brought out after the novels.
not all of them. And some
No.
of the short
Not
stories,
all of them, no, but
some of the
they were
short
just kind of
stories
like
had
bang
been
in the middle, and they're meant to be before.
But some of the short stories have been published before the books, just not as a compilation of a full
Right.
hardcover and stuff. So, but yeah,
You're fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, that is the content that we have consumed this week.
I started Vampire yesterday.
There is more content that we have consumed this week.
That was it. That's all I've got to say about it. As I started it yesterday, it
So,
does not play well on mouse and keyboard. Play it with a controller. You lock onto enemies, and then by default, and you can't override it. You can change it, but you can't override it. Switching your target is moving your mouse, which means that me trying to move my camera around just switches which enemy I'm targeting on. So I've started playing it with a controller, and it plays a lot better. But I object to being forced to play with a controller.
yeah. Yeah, fair.
That being said, I just played through all of Ruined King with a controller, but I don't know how I played with mouse and keyboard because Callum just told me to play it on controller. But
So you did.
So I did. I do what I'm told.
Yeah. There may be.
I now.
You
go. You go.
Well, I was just gonna say there may be more content that I consume this week. Examina, which is a game that looks amazing. It's a little indie game where you go through a dungeon, but it's like floppy physics, and you move the weapon with the mouse. It's very hard to explain. It looks so annoying to play, but it looks so good at the same time.
That isn't the game that General Sam.
It is. He has played it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of the first videos that you showed me to introduce me to it.
That's a damn good video.
Yeah. Well, I now own Skyrim Anniversary Edition.
Yes, suck it.
I don't know how do you like update your special edition to it, because it's
just a DLC.
Is it?
You just get the DLC for the special edition, which is Anniversary Edition, and then you open up the game, and it will download all the mods.
Very nice. I'll do that this week at some point.
Yeah. Good boy. I'm proud of you.
So, thank you. I'm proud of myself too.
Yeah.
Do you know what game I'm really looking forward to?
Elder Scrolls 6.
The next release of Skyrim? Oh.
Avowed, which looks like Obsidian's answer to the Elder Scrolls games, and since Obsidian is just Bethesda, but when Bethesda was good, yeah, really looking forward to that.
I thought the Outworlds was shit.
Your opinion is incorrect, but that's fine.
I don't think it was shit, but I didn't like it that much, to be honest.
I enjoyed all 5 hours of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex somehow beat that game in 5 hours and insists that he didn't skip a bunch of content.
I'm a speed runner.
He's a content skipper.
I didn't. I legitimately even did side quests. I genuinely don't know how I beat it so fast. Maybe I'm just sick.
The only logical explanation, if you genuinely did side quests, which I don't believe you did, but if you did,
I genuinely
is that you somehow did like a Far Cry 4 secret ending one, where like you betray the main scientist or something 5 hours in. It's like cool, you beat the game then because there's no more story anymore, and you went,
oh, I did.
Nice. That probably is why then, yeah. But even then, how did you get to the point where you can betray him in 5 hours?
Oh, I don't know.
Because it's still probably around about hour 20.
I don't think I actually did it in 5 hours. I feel like I did it in a bit more than that. I think it was very short compared to you guys, but I think it was a little bit more than 5 hours.
It was like 8. Maybe 8.
I'm a fool. I just tried to open GOG, but it just like completely covered half of the screen that I'm recording from.
I think I hit 13 hours and I hadn't completed it yet, and then I gave up.
Do I have GOG launcher on my desktop? Because I don't want to fill up the screen with my search bar, but I want to know what my playtime was. Wait, no, it wasn't on GOG. It was Epic, wasn't it? Because it was an Epic exclusive.
I had an Xbox.
I'm pretty sure it was an Epic exclusive for PC, timed exclusive, but hope this
No, it wasn't.
Pretty sure it was.
No, because again, I had it on Xbox on PC. I played it on Game Pass.
Okay, maybe it just didn't come to Steam or something. I don't remember.
No.
I either got it on GOG or Epic, but I think I got it on Epic now I'm thinking about it.
I don't have a bloody clue what I had it on.
I think you had it on Game Pass as well.
Oh, that was something that I wanted to talk about while I wait for... it did launch on the fucking main monitor. Apologies about the video quality where stuff's just appearing on the screen rather than just our faces. So you mentioned the new Matrix trailer, which I haven't looked at because I'm just going to go see the film in like 3 weeks when it comes out. But there was another trailer that came out today, which is for what was it called? The Matrix. There we go. It's on screen right now for people. I've put it on the screen. It's a digital Keanu Reeves for a new Matrix experience in Unreal Engine 5.
Okay.
So they called it an experience, not a game, which makes me wonder what it's going to be. But let me just search what it was called, because it wasn't called The Matrix Resurrections. It was called... The Matrix Awakens. It's literally just like a 16-second teaser, but Keanu Reeves looks insane in it in terms of like how photoreal he looks. You can still tell it's not really him. It's in an engine, but it just looks crazy good. So curious to see what that'll be, because Enter the Matrix was a fucking amazing game. So if it's like a full-blown Unreal Engine 5 Matrix game, that'd be great. But as I said, the phrase Unreal Engine 5 experience makes me think that it's not going to be a game. It's going to be like a very short game or something that's just like basically a demo for the engine.
Be VR.
Could be VR. I mean, VR would be very fitting for the Matrix.
Oh yeah.
VR in Unreal Engine. Unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to like demo Unreal 5, which is like their brand new super high fidelity engine, I would imagine you'd want it to be on like a super high quality screen, and VR is not that, unfortunately.
I want it in my eyes.
Okay.
When are we gonna get like advanced contact lenses?
Well, Google Glass was cancelled, I'm afraid. So.
Wait, they cancelled it?
Yeah, ages ago.
Oh.
I played 35 hours and 14 minutes of Outer Worlds.
Oh. Yeah, I completed it. I mean, I'm pretty sure you must have played more than what it took you to complete, right?
I mean, I did side quests.
Okay. Well,
I played through the story while doing side quests, and I beat it after 35 hours or so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I finished it considerably.
You did. I don't know whether it was 5 hours, but I remember you saying like you'd already finished it like the day after it had come out. So
Yeah.
anyways,
That was the content we consumed this week, and potentially this week later on or next week.
oh, that section ended ages ago, bro.
Well, it didn't.
It did.
It just kind of.
We then started
spiraled.
talking about other stuff. The Skyrim talk was not what we consumed in the week because Alex just bought it. So from that point on, we weren't talking.
It went on to content we might consume later.
Right, which is now a new section. So
this is a new segment now, is it?
Well, it's not a segment we're going to do every week, but I'm saying it's no longer the content.
Groundbreaking.
Like, you know, in like I think last week or the week before, where we did the content we consumed like half an hour into the podcast because Alex wanted to talk about The Witcher, and then we did the rest of the rest of the podcast wasn't still the content we consumed in the week. When there was like another hour of podcast after that. That was then the rest of the podcast.
Alex, you look confused.
I'm good.
Thank you for tuning into the Higgledy Piggledy podcast. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us on MySpace, follow us on Tumblr, follow us on Flickr, follow us on the Jeremy Renner app, which is no longer a real thing, but I don't
None
have.
of which
we have none of those socials other than YouTube. No. I mean, I have a Twitter account that I tweeted the first episode from.
You can call my number, it's 07305. I'm not going to read the rest. I was kind of hoping somebody would stop me.
No, but I can put it on screen if you want.
Maybe we should get some social medias. I feel like would that actually be of any use to us though? Where did my little pillow? What's my little pillow?
Oh no! Oh no! He's called my bluff. Secret
We both
Labs,
have
please
powers
sponsor us.
here.
Apparently,
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my secret lab pillow. Where the fuck did that go?
isn't it? Is that not on your windowsill? Is that not a pillow?
No, that's my iPad and my Switch docking
do.
station.
Yeah.
It's a bit dusty.
There's like an orange thing on your windowsill as well, which I know it's not this. I think it's like a post-it note or something maybe. But just
No.
like the way it's in the shot with the white book above it, I guess it kind of looked like it was a jar with like light hitting the jar. But then obviously because it was orange, it looked like a jar of piss.
No, it's a box. It's what my vape came in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very rare I see the back of Alex's head. Just occurred to me.
Isn't it kind of more or less rare to consciously look at anyone's back head?
I see the back of your head all the time. I live with you, so
Yeah, but
it's like,
do you ever consciously think, oh, I'm looking at the back of Pete's head now?
no, because it's normal. But for Alex, it's not. Sometimes I
feel
think
like
he lives in a 2D world.
I was going to say, I feel like Tommy's just discovered what it is to do a video call with someone.
It's just,
You're right,
just
bud.
I don't see him turn around much. it's a strange
That's because
concept.
when he's on camera, he's facing the camera.
I'm aware. That's why I don't see the back of his head much.
But why is this like something that's worth mentioning?
No, it's just a thought. It just occurred to me.
Oh fuck, we better wrap this up because I'm gonna like pass the fuck out.
Oh, that's good content. I feel like we should keep rolling.
Yeah.
We could then
No.
name the episode "Alex Passes Out," and then it's not clickbait. It's just like 2 hours into it that you pass out.
Nah, I've still got a few hours left in me, I reckon.
All right. Well,
Just need some more caffeine. Is there caffeine in this?
Have we hit the part of the podcast where Alex starts reading the label of a Diet Pepsi?
It does have caffeine.
Content.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Diet Pepsi, please sponsor us. Now
Cor-
with caffeine.
Corsair,
helps.
can you sponsor us actually? Because I've got a Corsair chair, and also like most of my PC's Corsair. But like I dropped my headphones off my desk the other day, and now look at that.
Oh,
It's fine, it still works, but it's just like there's no way to replace this bit, and that makes me sad.
Did Corsair still have that stupid new the stupid new logo, or have they gone back to the old ship one? Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how recent.
Pretty sure these came out last year. That's maybe a year or two old. Pretty sure it's the same.
Let me
logo.
quickly go on the website.
We're still rolling. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
we're still.
This
Okay,
is
yeah,
long.
they've gone back to it. I will accept a sponsorship from Corsair.
Damn.
You'll accept a sponsorship.
I
from
will
Corsair.
accept.
Yeah.
I will grace them with the acceptance of a sponsorship.
If you've watched this far into the podcast, why?
I mean, good on you for doing it. Really. Thank you.
Not really.
From the bottom.
You should really
No.
have a moment of self-reflection. You've just in the only scenario where I'll accept that you've listened or watched this entire podcast is if you're like me and you just need bullshit white noise while making Dungeons and Dragons maps.
Hey, if you're watching this, what's up, Ben?
Ben, what
You
did
might be watching this.
Ben, Ben, what are you doing with your life? And that's where we're going to end the podcast. It's right there.
This episode has been sponsored by the back of Alex's head.
I wish I had that kind of money.
I think this is how I'm going to just
Sponsor them.
record all podcasts from now on. We're just going to fucking end this. All right, bye.
Bye.